Okay, so really quickly, today is the 10th of August, and I'm really busy doing some other things. However, I am going to quickly post a video update here with regard to the second part of the issues with uh, Meredith Mapes. And the first thing, which we already mentioned, was the problems with her fundraising pitch and her action plan with regard to getting fundraising for going up there, getting that village team, and how she was sort of unethically linking to the August Fund and the nonprofit there. She was also unethically pulling off someone else's fan base online with a hashtag. That's not something that's really more than in passing worth mentioning, but it's something that might be bothering them, like I said. But the action plan and the fundraising pitch, the problem was the money was going to Meredith and not to the August Fund, and she was going to be looking through the dogs, choosing which one she was going to keep, and basically sort of just dumping the other ones into the August Fund or using their established network and their established brand, which is more rehoming old dogs and rescuing older veteran dogs, to try to basically get rid of the rest of the dogs, the ones that she doesn't want from this purchase. And, at glance, a couple of dogs that I saw, they looked excellent. They looked like they probably be pretty good dogs. And she raised tons more money than they were for sale for. So, just to finish this, if she had done it in a way where she had receipts, the money had gone to the August Fund, and if she had expenses for gas going up there, etc., and she was compensated for all that, that's more the better way. That's the way that those types of things are supposed to be done, in other words, if that makes sense. Especially like the fact that she's not technically an employee for the August Fund, she's just using their name in their brand, in their as a fundraising, as a tool within her fundraising pitch to get money for herself personally. And she was already clamoring for money online, trying to get donations for her rent, complaining about not having a place to stay, blah, 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 blah. Now, we already did a video on this. So the other issue comes up is there are some concerns voiced about the way she's doing things and the care and the condition of her dogs. And I had been doing stuff on dog mushing, and I was, on the other end of this years ago, so I kind of understand, but I've been following the dog mushing stuff and posting online for like 6-7 years with this one dog class. I have never once said anything with regard to anyone's dogs looking in poor condition and in any place. No one ever. This is the first time I've ever voiced anything, and it's Meredith's dogs there. They look. There's a couple photos, and I'll post them in this thing. There was a young adult. She said was her best dog. It looked like it was inbred or had not got the proper vaccines, warming, and nutrition as a pup. And then there's some, in small midget size, face pushed in. Those are sort of some warning signs. It made me think of some Amish puppy mill stuff I've seen online in Pennsylvania. Now, and I know enough about dogs and stuff that I know that there's a problem with the start that dog got to make it look like that. And it might be a problem with the breeding too. But the other issue is and then she has a couple pups, and it looks like they're going to be in that same situation. They didn't look happy. They didn't look healthy. There was a black one. There was mucus in its eye. It looked like the hips were sunken in a little bit or down, and the ribs were like the dogs were cramped up, like they might have had worms or something. And so this stuff was voiced online. Also, what was voiced online is that she had a litter of puppies, and she went, and as soon as the litter happened, she moved the dog, the mother and the puppies, to someone else's kennel who does sled dog tours in the summer so that they could have the puppies as an exhibit or something, like at a zoo, for the clients who come, the tourists who come to do the sled, to look at the kennel for the sled dog tourism business. And some people were asking, wow, that doesn't make any sense to move the old mother. And, and someone else said, why are your dogs on the glacier? There's some industry stuff that's getting questioned. But the specific thing about the dog care, people were speaking out and saying, that doesn't look, her dogs look bad, the mucus in the eye, someone should do something. Someone said something about someone should call the police on Meredith. Now, after that, she made a tweet, and she said basically what I would consider on the edge of being a violent and terroristic threat, that she quote unquote had a gun and knew how to use it. And she made a claim that mushers, quote unquote, she gave no specifics, had received threats from whatever. And I'm not sure if she was trying to imply it was me or not, but I promise you I have threatened no mushers in any shape or form or anything. There was a comment online that someone might call the police against her, but that's not a threat. That's just someone saying that they might call the police. And what they were doing is they were saying they might call the police because of her dog care issues, because of the photos she was sharing voluntarily and publicly online, the ones I just mentioned. And I'll post them on there so you can see what I'm talking about. So, So we're in this place where she's making this comment. First of all, she's saying something that's unsubstantiated. There's no evidence, and I certainly didn't do it. Someone else did it, pretending to be or me. There's been no threats towards any dog mushers in any shape or form for me. There was a comment online about someone calling the police, but I wouldn't consider that being a threat. But and then she's saying, "Well, I have a gun. I know how to use it." Now it's unclear whether she's trying to say she has a gun, knows how to use it in terms of culling her dogs, in terms of choosing which ones to keep. She's got these young dogs that aren't in good shape, or she's acquiring those 20 dogs from the village, or if she's saying that. I think that's a practice that's not used as much, but I think it's a practice that, like the big CV kennel, does probably still do, or at least did recently. And it does still exist down there in the Goose Bay Road too. They'll buy a kennel of dogs, and they'll pick up 15, 20 dogs, and they maybe only keep 5, and maybe 5 they'll rehome, and maybe 5 they'll kill. They'll shoot because the dogs aren't good enough for their program, or just because they're not even going to give the dogs a chance. They're just trying to buy a car. Like I mentioned, her fundraising was sort of like flipping a car, but it's like buying a car and taking the parts you want, and then just getting rid of the rest. So I think that's sad, if that's the case. But more reasonably, I think what happened with Meredith is she actually was, suggesting she was trying to silence the person speaking out, and the people speaking out about her dog care by sort of, metaphorically online brandishing this gun, saying, "I have a gun, and how to use it." And the only thing, any sort of threat I saw towards her was someone saying that they might call the police because of her dog care. So I think it's unreasonable for someone, especially in this day and age with all the shootings and all the stuff you see online, to be saying, "Well, I have a gun, I know how to use it." She does have a gun, she knows how to use it. She probably doesn't need to share that online. If she's sharing it online, she's probably doing it in an attempt to try to suppress and silence people speaking out about the problems with her dog care and the problems with the conditions of the dogs and the photos that she has voluntarily publicly shared to provoke people making these observations about the problems with their dog care, etc. If that all makes sense. So it's sort of a problematic moment where, personally, somebody doesn't know Meredith, I feel like she's out of line. She's obviously fabricating online something when she's saying mushers have received threats. And she's trying to, basically she's trying to discredit and silence someone for speaking that out, who's speaking out legitimately, honestly, and forthrightly about a valid and reasonable concern for the welfare for the sled dogs that she has and the welfare of the sled dogs that she is acquiring. And there is obviously evidence from the photos, and there's also the problem with her fundraising and everything else going on where she's doing things wrong, she's caught doing it wrong, and obviously, she, like I said, she might have had a good intent when she was doing that, but she's doing it in such an unethical way. She's personally benefiting it, from it, getting all that money to her personal Patreon instead of going to the August Fund, blah blah blah. So there is a point where this person's basically been caught kind of stealing. You know what I mean? And she's been caught with a group of dogs that, aren't looking good. And there's some evidence of when you're looking at those pups and you're saying they're not looking good. You're looking at some older dogs that came out of her program that she bred up and trained and stuff. And they look like they didn't get a good start. And you look at the pups and you can see that, there's a pattern here. These pups don't look like they're getting a good start either. Maybe these pups need to be warmed out. Maybe someone needs to go over there and say, "Hey, you need to warm these pups out, and you need to make sure these dogs get daily walks, and what's going on. Are they being kept in good conditions? Why is there the mucus and stuff in that pup's eye?" If you're sharing the photos on this stuff online, you're opening yourselves towards praise on the one hand, but then also criticism. So that's something that goes with the sort of the nature and the transparency of a platform like Twitter and social media, etc. And again, so this is not, I'm not someone who has any access whatsoever to grind with Meredith. Number one, don't know her personally. This is just direct observations from stuff going on. Lots of other people were making observations with problems with Meredith's pattern of doing things, sending her dogs to the glacier. The mother just had a rude puppy, she sends them somewhere else. Someone who's very much just sort of, get the impression you get is someone who's in it for the money, in it for the glam, in it for the business side of it, not necessarily in it for, really having a good relationship with the dog. And someone who's more doing the business side of it, I guess, versus someone who's really just passionate about the dogs and in the lifestyle and working with the dogs. It's more someone who wants to just, play the numbers. And that's sort of, coming from someone who works with the CVs and comes from the, the CV mindset and the big kennel mindset, who used to work with the CVs and for the CVs. So, but in a nutshell, in conclusion, the violent and terroristic threat posted online by Meredith, "I have a gun, I know how to use it," I think is something that's, and I think someone needs to step in and do something about that, because especially in all the shootings and stuff, it's just, even if she doesn't, maybe in 5 years she's going to shoot someone, know what I mean? Or is she going to think someone did something that they didn't do without any evidence, and she's going to get British and it's very concerning that you would try to silence people also, and that's what someone else mentioned this to me, and I agree with it, that if you're having that sort of a dramatic and violent reaction, and you can say something like that when someone's pointing out some concerns about your dogs, probably the concerns about your dogs are justified. You know what I mean? If you're having that sort of a strong reaction, if it wasn't a big deal, she would just say, hey, yeah, there's just a little gunk, it's a little dusty there. I'll make sure to worry about those dogs. You know what I mean? And sort of acknowledge that there might be a concern. Maybe it's just the way that those photos are, and the lighting there, and it's not something that is justified. You know what I mean? So, but if it's actually, if there's enough validity to a criticism, and someone just goes off the handle and is threatening with the gun, then I think there's probably some animal welfare issues here with Meredith and her group of dogs, and so that's pretty concerning. I think that there's a pattern of problem in that KGB road area too, because there's so many dogs, so many kennels, dogs always coming in. So there is disease. There is a history of animal welfare issues in that geographic area. I remember having some friends down there, going down there, and they're losing pups. They're having a litter of pups. Only a couple of them live. They say part or something. And I'm up in Big Lake. There's 6 litters of pups. They're all totally healthy and fat. And even when I was a kid growing up, it's like you don't see that sort of mortality, or that sort of poor health with puppies, with raising litters of puppies. So that there is a problem, I think, with that area and with the culture in that area, where the dogs aren't necessarily, and the raising of the dogs is not as professional, and the health care for those dogs is not as professional when you're talking about breeding and raising litters, and the genetics plays into that too, but just the nutrition, the medical, even though she's a vet tech, but then it's like, is not as professional. And I think culturally, just the animal, the health, the welfare of the dogs, it's more of a commercial thing. It's more of a livestock type thing, and it's just not as. But even if it is like that, it's just not as well done in terms of animal welfare. So if that makes sense. So there's cultural, regional problems there in that KGB road that are bigger than Meredith as an individual. But since the online transparency, she's posting these photos, you can really see it with her. And I think it's something that's okay to speak out about. You know what I mean? Even back then, I remember there was like a litter split or something with someone on KGB Road, an old friend, and it's like you go over there and there's just dead pups in a dog food bag or something like that. It's like, and you go to these other kennels and there's no pup mortality, and why do these dogs not? Do these dogs get a vaccine? Well, there's part where there's the cramps or something like that. But why aren't you vaccinating your dog? Why aren't the dogs getting wormed? What are the dogs getting fed? Where are the dogs being kept? And that gets into the animal welfare stuff. So, I think it's definitely okay to speak out on behalf of observations of concerns for dogs, and it's definitely not okay for someone to react so dramatically like Meredith did, and try to silence people speaking out for those concerns, to try to discredit them falsely. Some of the things she said, but then also making this sort of a threat, alluding to having a gun, knowing how to use it. Is she trying to basically, in a debate, silence someone from speaking out, someone speaking out in concern for the dogs, and suggest that she's going to do something violent to them because they are, saying something in terms of animal welfare or whatever. And this is pretty concerning too, in light of, again, all the shooting and stuff online, and then you see pattern where sometimes people say stuff like that and people don't take it seriously, and then 5 or 10 years later they shoot someone or something like that. So I don't really see, looking at Meredith, young white female, pretty smooth, diminutive, I don't really get the impression this is like a violent person. But then I also don't get the impression that she should be excused from saying something like that.